Tonight I am so excited to have all my girlfriends, and we haven't caught up for a very long time. But I do not want to be stuck in the kitchen. One of the good things about being a host, of course, is being out there with your guests. So I want to keep things simple. First things first, get my desserts because it needs a little bit more time. It needs to set. So in this cupboard, I have my jelly, a pot, because we need to dissolve the jelly. It's not going to be the jelly, it's going to be a bling jelly. And then I need my measuring cup, which is also in here. Next thing, I'm not going to use water to make my jelly. I am going to use, in fact, something really good because it helps maintain a healthy heart. Pomegranate and raspberry juice. And last thing I have is a mélange de fruits rouges, which is basically a whole bunch of colored fruits in English. Okay, we need 2 cups of our juice. This is basically going to be heated up to dissolve the gelatin. So that's our first cup going into the pot. And the second cup. You only need enough just to dissolve our gelatin. And let's put the stove on. I love this bowl because it has a little nozzle at the end there, which means it can just pour it into things. I'm going to use a little bit of lemon jelly because it's how I like the sweetness of the jelly and the sourness as well that the lemon adds to. This is now hot enough to dissolve our gelatin. Just pour that in, give it a good old stir. Make sure that all the crystals are nice and dissolved. See that? Ambidextrous. Still a little bit left in there, so let's keep on stirring. I'm going to tell you about berries. Berries have superpowers. They are chock full of antioxidants, bioflavins, and are so good for anti-aging. So let's let that cool. Blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, red currants. So into the fridge to let the jelly set, and on to my next recipe. So now that my bling jelly is being set in the fridge, it's time now to do another variation, a more glamorous version of a traditional party dish, the quiche. But I'm going to make it a little bit more feminine and make little mini ones. I'm going to call them tarts. I have my kumara and my leek, so it's going to be a kumara, leek, goat cheese, quiche tartlet. This recipe is an old favorite of my mum's. The smell of the quiches when they come out of the oven reminds me of my childhood. Okay, 1 grated kumara, using a very sharp knife because these things are actually quite difficult. Okay, finished chopping the last little bit of my kumara, and it is into the steamer. Of course, when my mom used to cook this recipe, she didn't have all the mod cons that I do today, which makes this recipe even easier to make. This is going to be done in no time at all. Now the leeks I'm going to lightly saute. I'm going to only use the white bit of the leek. And the leeks are a lot more milder than spring onions and onions, but still full of flavour. Okay, we are going to sweat the leeks. Just a little bit of olive oil in there. That's just going to add some more flavor and some more richness. But we don't need to fry them, we need to just sweat them. And in come the leeks. We don't want to brown the leeks in the saucepan because they will be cooked in the oven with the rest of the quiches later. Oh, you can smell delicious aroma of the leeks coming through, but it must be related to the onion family because it brings a tear to my eye. Okay, I put the leek and the kumara to one side to cool. And it's time now to get on with the fun part, the pastry. Okay, I have all my ingredients for my pastry, including the biggest one of all, the funnest one as well. And now I bought my pastry ready-made. It was frozen, and you just got to defrost it and let it cool to room temperature. So let's flour the board. And a little bit of flour on the rolling pin too. The reason why I enjoy rolling out pastry and playing with pastry, it just reminds me of my childhood. It's kind of like Play-Doh. We're going to be making our quiche bases, or our little tartlet bases. We're going to be doing something called baking blind. In other words, making the cases. Just run your knife along the edge. Cut out a nice little circle. There's the circle. It's slightly bigger than the tray, which is obviously what we need it to be. Put it in the middle, press it in the middle, and then what you want to do is you want to lightly push it in, just lightly push it in. That helps to allow the air to kind of seep through so it doesn't puff up. Now I'm using some baking paper which I've cut into round circles. This goes into the dish, and this is where the beans come in. They help to weigh down so that the pastry doesn't raise too much. So, here we are. And once you've actually used these, you can't cook these beans anymore. So keep them in a jar, aside. So next time you make pastry blind again, you can reuse your beans. That goes into the oven about 10 minutes, so it's cooked, but not browned or crispy yet, because we want it golden brown so we can do our filling. Okay, so whilst those are cooking, I'm going to make the filling. And the cream. Now we need approximately 3/4 of a cup of milk. Very rich and creamy. Us girls, we only get together once in a short while. We can afford it. So let's just dollop that into here. Don't tell anyone. And we need our 3 eggs. 2. And the last one. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to add my seasoning now, which is some salt. And add a couple of pinches of pepper. And there is one more secret ingredient, and that is nutmeg. It smells good. Okay. Ooh. Beautiful. Okay. Now it is time to actually add the filling. So we have our sweet potato kumara, some leeks, some really good feta which you're going to crumble in on top, Our custard mix we pour in last. Back in the oven until the mixture sets and browns slightly. And that is my quick and easy way of doing a delicious quiche.